So there's a lot of videos out right now where people are just hating on everything with Custodes, but this isn't going to be one of those videos. So my brother-in-law didn't like the detachments that were coming out in the new Codex. So what we did is we homebrewed a detachment for him to play that kind of fits his playstyle. Since I was already making it, and making the rules is like 90% of the work, I thought I'd share it just in case other people were looking for kind of an alternative way to play their Custodes. So this will be based on the Gilded Fist. So what their background is they're a group that relies really heavily on Terminator armor, but they also use way more cooperation than the average Custodian does. Normally they're like a one-man army, but they've decided to really work as like tactical units. So let's go ahead and look at the rules. So on this first page, nothing is really going to be different than the normal Custodes rules. If you haven't seen the actual Codex yet, this is how it will be. Same concept as the Index, but slightly different. Basically, anytime a unit fights, you pick either sustained hits or lethal hits, and give it to that unit. One is meant for groups, like if you're fighting Orc Boys or Guardsmen, and the other is meant to help you take out like hard targets like vehicles. Now for the actual homebrew part of this is the Detachment, which is Indomitable Resilience. This is a Terminator-specific buff for Assist Up Feel No Pain. We wanted to add back in some of the durability they had originally, and give them something unique to the actual Terminators. So the other detachment rule was more so a request of the person I was building this for, and that's that Trajan Valoris can lead Terminators now. He is the Captain General, so I think he could lead basically whoever he wants. He does have some powerful abilities, but I don't think it's anything that will be absolutely game-breaking when paired up with the Terminators. Before we get to the stratagems, I want to admit I'm fully aware this isn't going to be super balanced. Like, you can definitely nitpick what I did here. I don't think it's going to be horribly far off, but I did build this for more of like a fun, casual, thematic army list, not something competitive. So if it's massively overpowered or underpowered, feel free to make adjustments to get it wherever you think it needs to be. So now let's look at stratagems. The first one will be Auroric Fortitude. This one lets one unit buff their detachment ability to be a 5-up Feel No Pain. Since it does trigger only on the detachment ability, you'll only be able to hit Terminators with it. So that is really strong, but it is limited to what type of unit you can actually target. So I'm hoping that kind of gives us more balance. The next one will be Emperor's Retribution. This can be used on a unit that has fought in the fight phase, and it allows one of your units to perform an additional attack with the Misericordia profile. It is less attacks than if you had a regular attack where you were using your Misericordia. So thematically, I wanted this to be where your unit has been fighting, and now the Custodes have positioned it where they can get off some surprise attacks with their backup weapon. Next stratagem is one that they already had before the Codex came out, which is Vigil Unending. So this allows you to bring back a destroyed model as long as it's a Custodian infantry and not a character, and you can only use it once per battle on the same unit. Next up, we have an Aquilian Terminator specific strat. So their ability is called Heavy Assault Infantry, and what it does is that it allows them to reroll wound rolls of 1, but only if the target is the closest target. My thought is that this detachment is all about Custodes working cooperatively, so they'd be able to synergize their shooting to pick off different targets as needed. So this strat lets them get that bonus no matter who they're choosing as a target. Like, it doesn't have to be the closest enemy at this point. This next one is one of my favorite Custodian abilities, and it's from 9th edition. I just reworked it for 10th. And it's Unleash the Lions. And it can be used on any Terminator unit for 2 CP. And what it does is it allows you to take a Terminator unit and break it apart into individual models, which each become their own unit, with a starting strength of 1. So I put this a little bit in the lore, but my thoughts here were even though they're focused on the cooperative Terminator fighting, Custodes would be able to coordinate their fighting and do missions even if they aren't right by each other. Since each one is like a one-man army, they could be coordinating their actions across the battlefield. Which this leads directly into the final strat, which is Pride of Lions. This awards you for getting your Custodian Terminators to cooperate their fighting. So during the fight phase, you can pick one unit that hasn't fought yet. And until the end of the phase, if they make an attack that targets a unit that another Terminator has fought, you get to reroll hit rolls of 1. This would be decent on its own, but where it shines is if you combine it with Unleash the Lions. So what you can do is have a single Terminator run up and fight, And then you can have another full unit of Terminators do an attack and get this bonus. So that is a pretty CP heavy strategy, but I think it would be really rewarding and you would get a lot of benefit for having those individual Terminators. Like, I think it would be a really satisfying strategy to pull off. So now we'll go to the enhancements. The first one is 45 points and it's Precision Beacon. One of the biggest gimmicks with Terminators are the Deep Strike. And for the Custodes, it's from the Golden Light, where you can basically bring them out of deployment on the battlefield and redeploy them. So I wanted to make it where this was buffed for one unit. And it allows you to deploy 3 inches closer than normal to an enemy when using that ability. So you can really threaten a charge right out of Deep Strike. Next up is Veiled Blade. So this is something they already have and I just kept it the same. I thought it was a pretty cool piece of equipment with a passive and an active. It's 25 points and gives you 2 more attacks to the bearer and allows the bearer to triple their objective control once per game. Then we have the Praetorian Plate for 40 points. This was from 9th edition and can only go on the Terminator Shield Captain. I wanted to keep the active and passive intact, so it gives the bearer +1 toughness. And once per battle, it allows the bearer's unit to do a heroic intervention for 0 command points. So the lore behind this piece of equipment is that basically it has something built in that allows them to do warp jumps a short distance. That way what they could do is be on the battlefield and immediately teleport to join a fight. So if you use this with Pride of Lions, you can get some really cool, like, surprise double Terminator fighting. This last piece is something that my brother-in-law, who I was making this for, said was just non-negotiable, because it was his favorite thing to use in 9th. And that is the Obliterum. I have no clue how to say it. But anyways, it's 70 points, and again, it's for the Terminator Shield Captain only. So what it does is if you have a Ballistus Grenade Launcher, once again, not sure how to say that, it gives you another profile which is more anti-tank. It's an 18-inch range, only 1 shot, hits on 2s, 10 strength, AP -4, and D3 +3 damage with devastating wounds. So this is a pricier piece of equipment with only 1 attack, but it hits like a truck if you did it on a vehicle or a harder target. So if you like this, there's a free download down in the description. It's just going to be like a Google Drive document. And right by that, I have a link to the miniature agnostic game that I made called Contact Xenos. So it's made for 2 to 5 players. So if you like a more casual, less competitive war game, or if you want something to play where you can have a bigger group of people, I highly recommend you go check that out. Thank you for watching.